I feel like there's been a lot of people contacting me because they know I like Formula One, and some of them even know I do a Formula One podcast. We do a Formula One podcast, and they're like, "Oh, mate, tell me about this. Tell me about this Christian Horner thing." Like they're looking to me that I would somehow know any more or less than what is already being reported everywhere. And I feel like every day I wake up to new news that I was like, "Oh, there's more players involved here." So, do you want to? How do you want to do this? Do you want to give me this? Why don't you give me the state of play as you see it right now? Where do you
Man, I
think
can give you the
we
30
are?
second. I can give you the 30-second
Mm,
update because a lot, again, because the reason I would do that is because so much of this has already been raked over, and a lot of people listening probably have already heard this.
mm,
But there was an accusation of inappropriate behavior from Christian Horner towards a female staff member that was being investigated. A whole bunch of stuff leaked about that. Oh boy, there's a bad smell about a lot of that, and it sure seems like some stuff went down that was not very good at all. Park all of that for one moment because if I get started ranting about that, I'll be here all night just talking just about that. But then there was an investigation. The investigation cleared Christian Horner of all wrongdoing, and then Jos Verstappen got extremely angry. He got all Tim Robinson from I Think You Should Leave about it, and he just couldn't let it go. And he's
mm,
like, the hell? Christian Horner is getting out of this team one way or another. And he really lit a bomb under the team. And he's
mm.
been saying things like, he's tearing this team apart. The team is going to explode if Christian Horner isn't dealt with. And unfortunately, it's bringing a lot of things to a head. There were rumors that Marko would be leaving the team. There were rumors Adrian knew he was going to be leaving the team. There's still rumors, I think pretty live rumors, that Max Verstappen's going to leave the team, which just seems unthinkable. But that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, it does feel like it's kind of drawing everybody in. What was a Horner story, um, which is a serious story, but it was like it was a
Yes.
very much like Christian Horner, and I remember texting you being like, I don't see him getting out of this one. Like there's because there's no point. Like
We
there's
thought by the next
really
race he'd be gone.
yeah, I really thought so because I my opinion was that it would be less about what Red Bull thought about this because they'll just back Horner to the hill, although we're finding that maybe that's not the case, and what the sponsors and what the FIA and what Formula One management would want, which they don't. Ever since we kind of had the F1, like the Liberty Media takeover, they've been really about like, cool, let's like round the wagons around Formula One, set up this like closed garden, and it is a package that is really well managed. And media, we run the media around it, and this F1 journalists and stuff, and that's all cool. But we'll give them the stories that, not to say that investigative journalism isn't happening, but like Formula One presents itself as like a whole thing in one go, like one big team, like proposition, I suppose. One big product is the word I'm looking for. And so, yeah, the FIA weren't really down for that. Head of the FIA wasn't really in for that. Ford came out and were like, we're going to be like your engine partner in the future, and we don't want any of this stinky stuff around us either. Yeah,
Stinky.
so stinky. Ew. And then really, I thought it was kind of mad that it was that Jos Verstappen got involved, like that he only really exacerbated the problem. And there's been weird things around, like Adrian Newey for a while. Like, why wasn't he in Red Bull gear at testing and at some of the races? Like, he's just in jeans and a shirt and carrying a clipboard around. Like, he's been in it. Like, the ideas of him being in and out of that team have been going around for like 10 years.
I
It
remember when he
seems.
retired like 5 years
Yeah,
ago, and then like six
yeah.
months later, he's like, I suppose I've got a couple more cars left in me.
Yeah, let me just here's a couple of fresh notebooks so we can pull out of that. And then Max saying that I could never even race at Red Bull if Helmut Marko wasn't there. Like, what
Yeah.
does Helmut Marko have on all these drivers that
I have
like
no idea. And also
that
Jos
they're
Verstappen
so
saying, hey, if I don't want Max to drive at this team, Max won't be driving at this team. And it's like, mate, who the fuck are you?
yeah.
Who are
I mean,
you?
is this just all? I suppose this is one of those situations where you kind of go. You see it in other sports, right? When the franchise player, this has happened with Kylian Mbappe at Paris Saint Germain, where he's like, "I'm French. I play for the Paris team. We should be the biggest team in the world, and I'm kind of like the boss guy now. Like I'm the biggest guy in the room." It happened with Virat Kohli in
Oh,
with
yeah.
with Indian cricket. Like
Indian
he
cricket.
essentially became like Prince, King, Emperor
Mm.
of Indian cricket, and the BCCI, like the body that kind of runs cricket in India. And so Max Verstappen and the Verstappen family are obviously kind of like, well, this is our team now. We're in charge. You make decisions that like there'll be
Yeah.
no second. Like you don't replace Perez with someone we don't want him replaced with. The sponsors we're going to have probably some hand in that too. Succession planning, all that kind of stuff. So if they want Horner out, they'll probably be able to get him out, right? Because now there's a little fresh little seat somewhere else opening up next year that I'm sure wouldn't be a bad thing,
It's
over at
hard
Mercedes.
because obviously Red Bull incredibly successful, but they've always had that mixture, that combination of a good engine supplier, Adrian Newey designed car,
Mm,
Christian Horner, and some star driver, and that has always been the recipe for their success. Or we can't say that they would be successful if you took away any of those elements because we
mm.
just don't know. But when they've been successful, they've had all those elements.
Yeah,
So there's just no telling. We will be just as successful if you get rid of Christian Horner, or we will be just as successful if you get rid of Max Verstappen. We don't know. But
no.
I think for sure, I don't think you could just drop Max Verstappen in any team and they will just suddenly, in a year or two, win 4 straight championships, for example.
No, I mean, we saw it with Sebastian Vettel. Like, it didn't happen. Like, you drop him somewhere else. Doesn't like it's the whole thing at Red Bull, and maybe that's why they may be more reticent to junk Horner because maybe he's the foundation, and then you put an incredible driver on top of that, and you get
Yeah.
great outcomes. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
not to change the
Maybe it's
topic.
Perez. Maybe
You can
he's
look
the
at what they're
foundation.
trying to do with Ferrari. They're getting
Mm.
Hamilton. They're trying as hard as they can to lure Adrian Newey, and apparently he has all these demands. And they're like, "We will meet every single demand that you want. Just please come and design us a car that wins about 10 championships. That would be
How
great."
many? What brand pencil do you want? We can get them.
Yes,
Like
that's the kind of thing where I can imagine. You know, I mean, I don't think that Fred Vasseur is on the level of Christian Horner for really anything, but if they had all the other elements, they might be successful, right? So
yeah.
I just don't see Red. I mean, it's just hard to imagine Red Bull being successful without Christian Horner because he's been there for so long.
Well, but this is also just all the kind of stuff that we just didn't expect to see from Red Bull.
Sure.
Like this was always the stuff that would maybe happen on the driver's side, right? All the
Yeah.
drama was on the like Red Bull program, young driver program. You know, promote a driver mid-season, demote another driver, send some guy off somewhere else. Or be mean about Honda to their face, or mean to Renault to their
Those guys
face.
can
Yeah,
never.
exactly. And be like, you guys kind of suck. Actually, they're like, that we provided you power units for all those winning years, and like, yeah, but you can fuck off. Um,
GP2 engine, GP2.
yeah. So that kind of it was never really. I don't feel like we ever really heard anything about like specifically around that triumvirate of like Marko, Horner, and Newey. Like they were the guys. They were making this thing happen. And it turns out maybe they don't like each other at all. And
Marco
it's
is like really painting himself as like a sort of a louder kind of figure, right? But
mm,
like,
yeah,
I don't
he's
know.
definitely louder than everybody else.
Well,
So, what
I
do you think is
mean,
going to happen here, though? Like, give me your conjecture.
I think, well, I think that if there's one more thing that involves Christian Horner that's controversial or damaging, I think he may go. But it's dependent on that one thing happening. And if everyone pulls the shoelaces really tight and nothing else comes out about him, he might be okay. The
Mm,
problem then will be where to for Max? Does he stay at Red Bull? Does he leave? I mean, they've got this year kind of like I heard that the designers are already moving on to designing next year's "We Won the Championship" shirt. That's how good this car is. They're back in
yeah,
their winning ways already.
so
Why
easy.
would he leave? That's my big question. That's been my big question the whole way along. Why would he leave?
Yeah, so I suppose this is the other thing because it's happening so early in the season that you've kind of got this whole year now of will they just kind of be at detente and be like, all right, let's just win the championship,
Let's just win.
and but the whole back behind the scenes will be this constant tussle for power between
Mm,
Verstappen and Marco and Horner to try to make the next move. And maybe the thing that would start to disrupt that is maybe they won't win every race, because I think I kind of agree with Jos Verstappen a little bit is that you will kind of the seams of the team will start to come apart a little bit because there's nowhere really to hide in Formula One anymore because there's so many races and it's more complex than ever and the team dynamics are more complex than
yeah.
ever. Like they're much bigger teams. So
I did make a little video
disruptive.
about this a week or two ago when it was sort of just starting to become something people were talking about.
Mm.
And I did point out that Jos Verstappen is making a valid point that this seems to be really causing a lot of tension within the team. That said, one of the people that's really aggravating that situation is Jos Verstappen.
Yes, yeah.
So when he's when it's like, hey, this really threatens to pull this part in two, it's like, well, yeah, well, you're pulling in one
Because you said it.
direction.
Yeah.
You're equally like. I mean, I'm not saying you have to just get behind Horner blindly or whatever, but like,
No.
you're one of the major players here.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but I don't know if you have to get behind any of them. I
I
feel
find it hard.
I feel almost nothing for the Red Bull team these days.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, oddly, like Max Verstappen's the person I kind of like the most out of all of them. Like, Max has had this really weird trajectory in my mind where he was like fun when he's coming through, but also a bit awkward. And then he became too like, I am the best. It's just going to happen for me. And then it did happen, and he won a couple. He's like, cool. So now I know I'm the best, and that's all fine. But I'm also growing up a little bit, and I don't know. He's more fun again, maybe. Like, I enjoy his interviews, and I enjoy the way he talks about his own performances and the sport and all this kind of stuff. I like that he's been quite openly like annoyed about sprint format and all this kind of stuff. Like, that's good.
Oh yeah, that's
Like,
what it is.
he breaks ranks when Formula One, as I said before, as a product is very much like, no, we're all on exactly the same page, and he's like, nah, I like this postcard over here instead.
He's less brash, but he's got that Kimi Räikkönen element
Mm.
of I just don't give a fuck,
No,
and I'll
exactly.
say whatever I think about things, and
Yeah, that's right.
that's just the way it is. Because what I think about things is what I think about things, and I'm asked what I think about things a million times a day.
Yeah. Apparently, my job is to answer those questions.
Apparently, that's
So,
my job. Well,
yeah.
any last
So,
words about this story before we move on?
yeah, if they start losing, they're in real strife.
I think
If
that'll
they
be
if they
absolutely
lose a couple of races, they've been lucky it's 1-2s. But yeah, if things on the car start going wrong, or like, and I'm not even talking about like Max making mistakes or anything like that. Like, but he gets annoyed when things go wrong. So who does he point that anger at? Because, Christian Horner has always been the guy who gets on the ring and goes, "No, Max, Max, I'm so sorry, my son." Like,
I'll melt this car into a ball, roll it into the ocean, and build you a new one myself.
yeah, exactly. But now, like, that power dynamic is not like that at all. Like,
Yeah.
Max is in charge. So
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think, and I've said this about. I feel like I've said this so many times in the last 11 years that we've been doing this. Things are great when you're winning.
Mm.
It's when you're not winning that things become kind of a problem.